Hello everyone, Mr. Tanner here again, and for today's set of notes we're going to be looking at types of gene expression in genetics and what those types of gene expressions might look like. So let's go ahead and get started. So first up is dominant gene expression. And in dominant gene expression, the dominant allele is completely expressed. Even if another form of the allele is present. So let's look at an example of that here with what Mendel worked with, pea plants. So in pea plants, the dominant flower color is purple. So let's say this flower has a genotype of big P. Big P, it's homozygous dominant for purple flowers. And we're going to breed that pea plant with this pea plant, which is homozygous recessive. It's little p for its flower color. It has white flowers. Well, we know that the offspring of that breeding would be heterozygous. It would have one purple allele and one white flower allele. It would be a heterozygous trait. However, the offspring of that mix, which is heterozygous, would only have purple flowers. It is a dominant expression, so the purple flower is completely expressed. So that's dominant expression. Our next type of gene expression is recessive expression. And because recessive traits can be hidden, and what I mean by that is if you had a recessive allele and a dominant allele, the phenotype you see is only the dominant allele. So that recessive allele is hidden. We don't see it looking at the trait. Recessive traits can skip a generation. So sometimes we talk about different traits like, saying skipping a generation or you inherited that from your grandfather. You didn't directly. You always directly inherit your traits from your parents, but sometimes a recessive phenotype can be hidden. And then we say people who have only one recessive allele are called carriers. They have that allele, but you don't see that allele expressed. They just silently carry that allele. And sometimes that can have tragic consequences. For a disease like cystic fibrosis, which is a recessive disease, two perfectly healthy parents can both be a carrier for cystic fibrosis, and then they can have a child that has cystic fibrosis. So that can be have very sad consequences. This example does not have any sad consequences. It's just eye color. But if both parents were heterozygous for their brown eyes, so they had one brown eye allele and one blue eye allele, because brown eyes is dominant, both parents would have brown eyes, but it would be possible for them to have a child that inherits the recessive trait from mom and the recessive trait from dad. So the child could have two recessive alleles, in which case they would have blue eyes. So that would lead to a child who has blue eyes. So in that recessive expression, we can sometimes see a trait in a child, if it's a recessive trait, that neither parent expresses. And that's very possible as long as that trait is recessive. Our third type of gene expression is codominant expression. And in codominant expression, both types of the alleles are expressed in our phenotype, in the phenotype, that physical trait that we actually see. So what you're seeing in the picture below is a red cow was bred with a white cow. This picture shows them both as bulls, which I think makes this a little bit tricky. But the offspring, importantly, shows both red and white. Both of those traits are expressed in the offspring. So you see this a lot with cows. They have that roan coloration, horses as well. In this case, both traits are dominant and both traits are expressed. Both alleles, I should say, the red allele for fur and the white fur allele are both expressed in the phenotype of the cow. And that brings us to our fourth and final type of gene expression, which is incomplete dominance. So in incomplete dominance, the heterozygous phenotype, remember that means you have one of each type of allele. So the heterozygous phenotype is a blend of the two homozygous forms. And homozygous means both alleles are the same. So what we're seeing here is a red flower that would be homozygous in this case, so it would be big R, big R. And then we have a white flower that is also homozygous, WW, and the resulting offspring from that would be a pink flower. So the genotype would be RW, and we get a blending of those two traits. The blending of red and white is pink, so a red flower and a white flower results in a pink flower, and that is incomplete dominance when we get that blending of the traits. So again, those are our four types of gene expression: dominant expression, recessive expression, codominant expression, and incomplete dominant expression. So use these notes to help you on your next task, and always reach out if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.